Hello, Holliston. Welcome again to an episode of Just Thinking. I'm John Cronin. Well, it's May, which means it's town politics time and town meeting time, town election time. Over the next several episodes, we'll be interviewing candidates as well as town officials about what the town is up for this coming town meeting to be held on May 11th at the high school, and the town election on May 19th, also at the high school. This episode, we're going to speak with one of the candidates running for Holliston Public Schools, Jess Ommen. Hello.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you.
It's great to see you.
Good to see you.
So we need to have a conversation about who Jess Ommen is and why she wants to run for the school committee. So give us a little introduction on your background, experience, and so forth.
Sure. So I'm Jess Ommen. I'm currently a stay-at-home parent. I ran for school committee last year. When I did not get that seat, I really dove into volunteer work in the community with all my kids in school, and me abruptly becoming a stay-at-home mom after the pandemic. I needed to keep myself busy, so I dove right into volunteering. So I'm now currently the Director of Communications for the Holliston PTO, as well as the Holliston Music and Arts Parents Association. I got involved with I'm an active member of the Holliston Cultural Council, which I absolutely love. And I was recently appointed to the Policy Advisory Committee by the Select Board for my advocacy work and my passion for equitable and inclusive policies in town governance.
I presume you have some children who are in or going into the school system?
Yep. So I have an 8-year-old daughter. She is in the traditional program. She's in 3rd grade. And then I have boy-girl twins in the Montessori program in kindergarten.
Twins.
Twins.
Hands are full.
Hence, I stayed home during the pandemic. I had newborn twins, a 2-year-old, and no childcare. So,
were you workforce? Any kind of experience?
Yes. So I was a project manager before I became a stay-at-home parent in the communications field. I was working towards my PMP certification, which again kind of stopped dead in the tracks.
For those that don't know, PMP is?
Project Management Professional Certification. You have to do a certain number of hours, so I was clocking my hours, and then at the end of that, you take an exam, and then you get the certification.
Right.
But I didn't quite get that far, unfortunately, with the pandemic.
Education?
Education, I went to Ithaca College. I have an undergraduate. I studied television, radio, marketing, and philosophy.
Sounds like you should have been a DJ, but that's beside. Just kidding.
I did want to be a radio DJ, but
But life has brought us here,
yes.
And so the school committee is now something you'd like to join.
Yeah.
This is a contested race, so there are others that are interested in the seats that are available. Why should people consider you different? What is your perception or your reason for running that might set you apart, Jess?
I really appreciate this question. I ran last year because I was not totally satisfied with the way I saw decisions were being made. In particular, my bread and butter last year was the school start times decision. I was very involved. I would say I was involved from the outside, so I listened in. Yes, I was not part of the decision-making process,
Sure.
but I listened to all the meetings, the subcommittee meetings that they had, and it was wildly unorganized. It was painful to listen to those meetings. There was never really, if there was an agenda, they never got past that agenda. And in the end, a decision was made that I felt didn't really address the concerns of the community. So I put together a proposal, asked the school committee to reconsider, and they couldn't because of a deadline that had been set within the teacher's contract. So then I'm like, well, why did we put that in the teacher's contract? And there should have been a clearer process and expectations from that subcommittee. And then my project manager hat went on, and I kind of decided at that point, I'm going to run for school committee because I think they need some help in that area of organization, process, identifying the right stakeholders to make decisions, and then fast forward.
So say you win, you get in the room. Are you going to be the lone wolf who tells everybody it's going to be my way, or how's it? Or
No, absolutely
how's it going
not.
to be?
No,
What do you do?
I take a very collaborative approach. So as a project manager, I worked in marketing and communications. I worked with creatives. If anybody has ever worked with a creative, you'll understand how egos can often get in the way. They get offended that you didn't like something about their artwork or their writing, being a project manager in that field required a skill set where I had to balance the needs of those emotions and those egos with the demands of the business. So I was kind of like the middle person between the designers and the creatives and the business side of it. So like the sales reps, the business managers. And I think, if I were to get elected to school committee, I understand there are some big egos there as well. And I'm not afraid of that. I have experience managing that. And I think, I can move us forward in a direction that doesn't just kind of get us stuck in the mud.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can appreciate that. Certainly as somebody who's spent a little time in that world, I think you're right. You have to have some level of thick skin, but also the ability to work with different types of personalities. It's not unlike the professional world, but as a volunteer, you're always searching for the currency of how do we get things done? And as somebody once said, you'd be amazed at how much you can get done if it doesn't matter who took the credit.
Yeah.
So if you check your ego, let's get going, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about Hollis Public Schools. When did you move to town?
I've been here, it'll be 11 years in August.
Okay, so you've seen some change.
Oh, yeah.
I presume when you made a decision to locate here, schools were on your list of
highest.
Okay, so let's talk about the arc. 11 years is a good sample, Jess. In 11 years, would you say the system is moving a trajectory up, laterally, some other way? How would you characterize Holliston? Is it a premier school system today from where it was maybe 11 years ago, from your perch?
I don't think it is where it was, or it's not at the level it was when I moved here.
Okay.
And that's, again, a huge part of the reason I'm running. I came from my background, my educational background, aside from college, was I started in Catholic school. And it was not a good Catholic school. We were very, very behind academically, and then by the time I got to high school, I had gotten accepted to a very competitive high school, all AP level classes, rigorous curriculum. You had to maintain a certain GPA to stay in the school, and I struggled tremendously. And that disparity kind of, it really made me realize the importance of education early on. And my husband had the complete opposite experience of me. He came from one of the best school districts in the country, and just very rigorous curriculum. I was so wildly impressed with the things he was learning in school. Things, they had a strings program. Their arts program was really thriving, which is obviously something I'm very passionate about, being involved in the Holliston Music and Arts Parents Association and the Holliston Cultural Council. And it's one of those things, when we're looking at budgets, unfortunately, arts is one of the first things that gets cut. With that said, I definitely, when I moved here, I knew our arts program wasn't going to be at the level that my husband's school was. I was hoping that we could get there one day because we did have a strong foundation. I feel like that foundation has definitely weakened in the last decade. With that said, I think we're on the cusp of something really amazing right now. We have a new superintendent coming in who I think has a very strong vision. He has a very collaborative approach, a very transparent approach, And I think I know we need a school committee that complements that. I think when they were hiring our superintendent, one of the school committee members said something along the lines of, they support Dr. Carter as our next superintendent because he has the communication skills that the school committee has been missing. And I kind of sat back and I thought about that, and I was like, but that's not his role. Like, our superintendent is not meant to fill the gaps that are existing in our school committee. We need to address those gaps, and we need to fix those gaps. And if our current school committee members are not going to address that, then other people should step up.
Let's talk about money. Holliston has had kind of a mixed bag of override success over the last 25, 30 years or so. Not unlike many communities in Massachusetts, which I'm sure you're familiar with the Prop 2.5 overrides. There are overrides for operational purposes, overrides for capital projects, and so forth. Recently, there's been a fair amount of news coverage across the state about the pressures the communities are feeling, Jess, about the cost of paying for a public school education. The overrides are in question in several of these communities, and dare I say, if you look at them, and I'll name several of them in a minute, they're not your traditional, small, middle Massachusetts, Western Massachusetts communities. Some of them are quite well-funded systems, and the pressure's there. The taxpayers are now starting to feel like, when is enough enough? Holliston will be meeting on May 11th at town meeting to consider the school's budget of $45.8 million, which is a little over 3% increase from last year. But as I said, just communities like Melrose and Bellingham, which is nearby, Brookline, Duxbury, Edgartown, they're all facing overrides, and statistically, a little over half of them succeed. So it's not a foregone conclusion wherever you are, how it will turn out. The stress is there. So you've mentioned one of the invested areas you want to talk about is cultural and growing the arts programs. That's money. So if you're on the school committee, are you putting your hand up to say, that's my top priority? How do you approach this thoughtful deliberation as a member of the school committee to evaluate all the needs with what you're given? How do you tackle that balance, Jess? Well,
I think, again, collaboration is going to be huge. So as a school committee, we don't create the budget. We approve the budget. So obviously working closely with Dr. Jordan is going to be huge. But I think as a school committee member, we are responsible for interacting with our community and understanding what our community wants and needs. And that's families, that's people who have children in the schools, but that's also people who don't have children in the schools. What is important to this community? And I was speaking to I think one of the school committee members actually had this vision of like making the high school a community space, and I thought that was actually phenomenal. I think that's a great idea, and if we're going to be spending...
You're talking about the new one.
The new one, yes. But yeah, I think, if we're going to be spending money, a lot of money on a new high school, the entire community needs a say in it, and we need to hear what they want and what they expect in a high school. Because what, retiree would need or want in a high school is going to vary.
Let me circle back a little bit. I'm going to put you in the room. It's, I don't know, it's March of a year, and you're elected. Now you're in. And the system is talking about budgets, and perhaps you've just signed a new contract, so you know what your labor costs are going to look like. And your superintendent presents the fact that in order to achieve the goals that the system has laid out for me and my staff, we're approaching a point here where we have insufficient funding.
Yeah.
And we must have, and I'm just making up numbers, a minimum of 6% increase, okay? Which is quite a lot of money in a budget of that size. In order to achieve that, and again, I'm making up numbers, the result means if you're board wants to endorse that, if Jess says yes, must have, you now have to ask for an operational override.
Yep.
So it has all the priorities in there that you want. It's an override. And boy, I'm just going to throw this one on you too. You just had an override for a high school too. So you had that in your pocket. So the taxpayers now, they've gotten the bill, the first one. How is your dialogue going to be at the table about whether or not you push forward with an override for that type of an investment in education?
Can I ask a clarifying
Please.
question?
Of course.
You said there's already been an override for a high school. Are
Yes.
you referring to the override that occurred last year, or a
No.
theoretical
The new high school
new
has
one?
not. The new high school is going to go through a feasibility study.
Yes.
And then ultimately, the town will have to vote on an override to fund the new construction. That is That is not an operational override. That's a capital override.
Okay.
But it's still tax money, right?
Yep.
So citizens in town are going to get hit with X dollars, in their tax bill for the high school.
Yep.
I'm placing you in the room after that vote. So it's years from now.
So the vote went which way?
We got a new high school.
Yep.
And the average taxpayer is now going to pay $1,500 more per year in their taxes for the new high school. That's great. But now it's like 4 years from now when you're now looking at an operational override, another one.
Okay.
And the superintendent says, if you want everything that you said you want, it's going to cost us 6%.
Yep.
And that means an override, operational. Are you okay with that? Or are you saying, let's have a conversation about bringing the number down. Let's work towards an outcome that doesn't place more pressure on the taxpayers. Where's your mind at?
Absolutely.
Yeah, give us some of that.
Yes, absolutely.
You're in the room, we're at a school committee meeting right now.
Yes.
What are you saying?
I am not going to automatically, yes, let's spend endless amounts of money. If anyone who knows me or anybody who's watched any school committee meeting, I am always thinking critically about everything and trying to find efficiencies where we can. So yeah, I think, if something were like that were presented, there is definitely the opportunity to look at it and find efficiencies and where can we find some cost savings. A good example would be, again, the arts programs. If something had to get cut, there are ways you can integrate arts into some of the other core curriculum. So put an art history kind of class in, or integrate it into a history class. So there are ways that we could finagle and cut if we needed to. But again, it's just going to be a matter of understanding what those priorities are, what are people willing to give up, and what absolutely needs to stay, and going from there.
Gotcha. The next question kind of leads into that whole effect, which is, I'll just say it, what's Holliston Public Schools' greatest challenge going forward?
Oh, gosh.
And that could be more than one thing. You've
Yes.
spent some time looking at their operations and business model.
Yep.
What do you see as the biggest challenges?
Budget is a huge one, especially, we're facing, and we're not unique in this, but the federal cuts. The education is just being dismantled at the federal level right now, so that's a challenge. The other challenge is we're seeing more and more students requiring IEPs and 504s, which requires more resources in our schools, and those resources are already extremely limited. These are all, as we were talking about budget, these are all things that add to the budget, and it's challenging because we need to meet our students' needs, and we're not currently, and most districts aren't. With that said, there are things I think we could do in terms of professional development days and helping our educators get the tools and the resources they need to teach to the individual child. European countries kind of approach it that way. And I would really like to see more of that in our district, and I would advocate for that, especially during professional development days.
Your narrative is good. I'm following you. You moved from the stress of looking to see if you can get certain things in the budget. There's a budget stressor.
Yep.
That's a challenge. And then you went over here to an educational challenge. And I would argue those are the only two challenges in any school. 'Cause they capture everything, which makes perfect sense. Your narrative is flowing. But as you level it up, which one would keep you awake at night? Are you more concerned about the educational health of our system, or are you going to lie awake at night and say, we just don't have enough money to do everything we want to do?
I think what would keep me up at night is knowing a child. I'm sorry, can you rephrase restate your question?
So your biggest challenges,
Yep.
right? You got the budget piece, you talked about that. Geez, we're not going to be able to get the cultural pieces in. And then you got the educational piece, teaching to the student. Those are challenges. So, okay, now that one feeds the other, we know that.
Yep.
Which one would keep you more awake at night? The educational challenges or the budget challenges?
I think they go hand in hand.
They do.
I think for me, what would keep me awake at night is if we couldn't support the needs of our children. I have two neurodiverse children, and one is on a 504, the other one is on an IEP, and I am very concerned about my child on the IEP and if and how he's going to be able to thrive in our schools here. And I think that is what would keep me up at night if God forbid, they said, okay, we don't have the resources, he doesn't need this IEP anymore, because this happens all the time too, where parents say, yes, he does, and the school says, no, he doesn't. Those situations are what would keep me up at night, because it's really, it's affecting the student, and they have their whole future ahead of them, and they deserve to thrive and grow to the highest
And it kind of goes back
abilities.
to what you started with. If a child doesn't have that basic educational foundation, everything else is more difficult.
Yes.
I gotcha.
Yes.
Okay. Well, let's turn it now to the high school proposal. We touched on it briefly, but as folks may know, the state has notified Holliston that we're invited into the Mass School Building Authority program for the new high school. This high school was built, I believe, in 1970. It's had a number of different challenges. The applications for this school were put in years ago. So finally, we've got some results from the state that Holliston qualifies. So over the next several months, including town meeting, there'll be some dialogue about some first steps in the direction of doing this. Are you familiar with the high school proposal to the School Building Authority? Do you have any sense of what the new program ought to look like in terms of a program?
I think that is way too premature. They are not anywhere near that. That's exactly what the feasibility study will show us. The feasibility study, it's a big ask. It's going to be on town warrant, $2.5 million for a feasibility study. It sounds like a lot. My understanding is that's going to be the state that's going to be contractors coming in and taking a look at what we need. So you asked, what's your vision? What are the priorities?
That's all correct. But now, say again, you're elected. Congratulations. Yep. Now you're on the committee, and they're talking to you in 6 to 12 months.
Yep.
What are you telling them about the high school program? What do you want?
Me personally, again, I want...
You have one vote.
Me personally, I would love more spaces for ensembles, like live music, band, chorus, theater, performing arts, I guess is where I'm going with that. With that said, it's not up to me. It's up to our community. And that's something I'm really committed to in this role. Like I have my wants and my desires for our district, but it's not my decision to make. It's a collaborative.
You're going to be listening to input from people.
1,000%. 1,000%. I am committed to being in the community. I'm in the community all the time now. I feel like I'm everywhere. But yeah, I'm on the ground. I'm talking to people. I volunteered at my kids' school today. I was out there mulching the courtyard and just talking to some of the PTO moms about what they want in a school district.
There are a couple of different ways you come to the conclusion of your vote. One is through consensus, you've been informed, or through your own value system. So I get that.
Oh yeah.
Talking about the high school, so again, congratulations, you're on the high school, you're on the school committee, and the project's going ahead. You're a project manager, you get it. Okay, it's doing what it does. This is great. We have a projected opening of X date, but other stuff is happening, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
When the high school is dominating a lot of your dialogue at your meetings, what are you most concerned about? Bring you back to that core question, because people don't know you. They want to know, what is Jess going to do? Well, all the high school stuff is taking all the oxygen in the room. What are you working on? What's your top challenge there?
Well, and I appreciate that question, because that's one of the reasons I'm running, is I feel like everybody is the entire community is very excited about the possibility of a new high school, as am I. But there's a lot of work that still needs to be done within the district, and we can't lose sight of that. Big decisions have been made recently. The school start times, they brought back math levels at the 7th grade level, and these are things that I think are great, but we need follow-up on that. We need to look at follow-up data and ensure that these decisions were the right decisions. I don't like that we tend to make a decision and then never look back on it.
It just occurred to me. So congratulations, you're on the school committee. Okay, but all of a sudden the word on the committee goes out, okay, we're looking for people to join the committee who have project management experience on building a high school. Are you going to put your hand up for that? Or are you going to sit back and focus more on the things you just talked about?
I don't know. I'm not sure that, I think my project management experience is going to definitely be an asset to the MSBA process. With that said, the state's going to come with their own project managers who are a lot more knowledgeable in building high schools specifically. I've never built a high school. So whereas I do have project management experience, I think they're going to be bringing in professionals that are definitely more dedicated to that work. And I'd be curious to see where I fall in that in that group, in that dynamic, because I would like to be a part of that discussion. But yeah, there are many other initiatives, and the other big one is anti-bullying. I think we really, really, really need to take a hard look at our anti-bullying policies. My own children have been affected by them, and they're not being properly implemented. They're very weak. I noticed, you almost never hear anybody say zero tolerance anymore. So I think we definitely need to take a harder look at that, especially with things like the emerging technologies and social media, and AI is a whole other ball game. But
we're going to wrap up with a question that kind of bounces from the state level, but it does impact school committees and educators. The Massachusetts House has recently voted to ban cell phones in the classroom. Thoughts? For or against?
I think for. So it's interesting for me because I didn't have this problem when I was in school. I mean, I guess we did have cell phones, but not smartphones. I do, like, as a parent, I feel a little bit of anxiety thinking about not being able to contact my kid with the way the state of the country is right now, and just disasters and tragedies that are happening in schools. It would make me feel a little bit more comfortable if my kids were able to call me in an emergency. That said, I think the risk of them having that cell phone in the classroom every single day and the downsides to that outweighs the risk of, like, God
Right.
forbid there was an emergency. So I think I'm for it. The one thing I would say, the state hasn't given clear guidance on how.
Right. It's very early. It
Yes.
has not become law. They're progressing
Yep.
or something. And I believe it's been successful in terms of passage in other jurisdictions,
Oh,
other
yeah.
states. So there's some data out there about
Oh, yeah.
what this does. But it's certainly something that's going to land in somebody's classroom or somebody's
Oh, yeah.
jurisdiction soon. Dare I say, back in the day when you were going to Catholic school and you were walking 6 miles one way, uphill both ways, you turned out fine. Yeah, so the phone is the phone. Just before we close, I do want you to have a moment to just reintroduce yourself to the voters. Give your pitch, and we'll remind voters again, town election, May 19th, which is coming up quick. Town meeting itself, where a lot of the policy talk we just had will be decided on. That's May 11th. So just take it over.
Hi, I'm Jess Ommen, candidate for Holliston School Committee. Someone told me recently they're supporting me because I don't give up, and they're right. I'm running for this seat again because I still believe in myself, not just because I still believe in myself, but because I believe in this community, and I haven't given up on what we can accomplish together. Holliston Public Schools are entering an exciting period of change. This is the moment to think carefully about the kind of leadership we want on our school committee. Leadership that comes with a clear plan, a willingness to collaborate across administration and town departments, strong engagement with the community, and a commitment to maintaining safe and supportive schools. When I did not earn a seat on the school committee last year, I joined a number of volunteer organizations in Holliston where I built strong relationships and was able to learn more about what our community needs and wants in our school district. Proven leadership matters in a school committee member, and I'm proud of the work I've done and the results I've delivered in my volunteer roles this year. I hope the community sees not just a list of roles, but a consistent record of showing up, stepping forward, and working collaboratively to make a meaningful difference in our community. In this election, it's important to remember that effective leadership isn't defined by titles or years of service alone. It involves listening carefully, bringing people together, and doing the work, especially when it's complex or requires persistence. It means being transparent, following through on commitments, and making decisions grounded in what's best for the community. It also means creating space for diverse perspectives and ensuring that every voice is heard and respected. Public service is about trust and accountability, not just resumes. I encourage voters to consider all candidates carefully, looking not only at experience, but also vision, judgment, and genuine commitment to this community. On May 19th, the choice isn't simply experience versus inexperience. It's about what combination of perspectives will best serve Holliston students, families, and taxpayers over the next 3 years. To learn more about my campaign, please visit justforholliston.org or follow me on Facebook. I remain fully committed to serving Holliston with integrity, transparency, dedication, and I look forward to earning the trust and support of voters on May 19th. Thank you.
We want to thank you again for coming in and salute you, a volunteer who is looking to step up and serve. It's the heartbeat of our community. It's how we operate. So thank you very much for joining us. It was a pleasure meeting you, and best of luck in the election.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Holliston.